Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Over the years of work, I have tried many methods for designing characters. The fastest and most effective ones are still using these 5 steps to draw. It can be stopped at any time and modified conveniently. This is also a method used in many projects. Today, I'm going to share my steps below. So grab your stylus, open the drawing software, and let's get started. The first step is to draw a silhouette sketch. I usually use solid colors to draw the silhouettes of characters for design. Different shapes convey different emotions, and through shapes, the character's personality and profession can be strengthened. I will first color the character's pose with color blocks. Depending on different genders, personalities, and occupational attributes, the choice of pose will also vary. This step is very important. Choosing the wrong pose will weaken the feelings conveyed by the character. After having the basic pose, you can add corresponding graphic elements based on the character's profession and the background story of the worldview. Note that here, graphics should still be the main focus. I want to design this character as a male warrior in a post-apocalyptic style with a somewhat wild, vigorous, and wild personality. Therefore, I chose sharp, triangular elements. I chose the second option, which is more integrated. Small structures like spikes are concentrated on the upper body, making the main and secondary elements of the design distinct and allowing the line of vision to more easily focus on the area above the character's waist. The second step involves structural segmentation based on the silhouette. This step doesn't need to be drawn too finely. It is necessary to consider the primary and secondary aspects as well as the layers of the shape division. Try to design as many interweaving and overlapping relationships of clothing and equipment as possible. Beginners often think about how to create beautiful patterns and neglect the structure, because in many cases, especially when 3D models of characters need to be built, the patterns do not produce light and shadow changes, while the structure and layers will produce light and shadow changes according to the changes in light sources in the engine. At this stage, significant elements that highlight the character's features can be added. I chose spikes, blades, and heavy iron chains. Smaller rivets and spikes can be added to the costumes during the refinement process to echo the elements. The contrast between the changing edges of the graphics and the relationship of density and sparseness are necessary. There should be a response between the upper and lower parts of the graphics. For instance, I chose square knee pads and shoes, which also correspond to the square shapes of weapons and shirts. The relationship of density and sparseness can guide the viewer's gaze to the key areas of your design. The third step is to correct the line drawing and add more details to it. Different material textures can also be expressed with lines. Straight lines are hard, while curves are soft. For heavy materials, the lines are thick and heavy, while for soft and thin materials, the lines are thin and shallow. Points and short lines can also be used to enhance the rough texture of the object's surface. Attention! Also want to be very cautious in this step. The sketch of structure can be adjusted to modify. In the place where you feel uncomfortable, can redesign adjustment. Refinement is not finished sketch, will be according to the structure of tracing the line again. At any time, according to the changes of the image, to adjust structure and rhythm. During the correction process, I felt that the character's legs were rather thin, especially the thigh part. The upper body was relatively strong and the muscles were quite thick. Thin legs would make the upper and lower parts seem disconnected. Human muscles are not only abnormally developed in a certain area. Therefore, I adjusted the shape of the thigh part to give the character an overall impression of being heavy and solid. When designing characters, it is necessary to give people a unified feeling. The outer contour silhouette is usually the first impression. Different graphics convey different emotions. After choosing the graphics to be used, each detailed part is an enhancement of this emotion. For the overall impression of this picture, I chose a relatively large square shape because it would make the character look more solid and powerful. The square shape and thick lines would enhance this feeling. At the same time, I wanted the character to convey danger signals and show its wild personality. I also added the element of triangular spikes. These triangles can remind people of sharp knives, needles, and other elements that can cause harm to us, intensifying the danger signal. Since the main intention is to highlight the sense of power, the triangular graphic elements are only used in small areas and as decorative elements in the character's local area, so as to unify the feeling of the character's strength. To make the characters more realistic, more details can be added to the picture. Through details, more rich information can be conveyed. This step is also a part that is easily overlooked by beginners. Many beginners are in a hurry to do color matching and rendering refinement, often neglecting the completion of the design itself. Observing the clothes we wear, there are many different techniques. When the civilization level of the character we design is relatively high, if the craftsmanship of the clothing and equipment is not demonstrated, it will also make the viewer feel untrustworthy. Only by adding sufficient details of the equipment can the audience feel that the image you designed has a high level of civilization and good processing techniques and methods. It's quite simple to understand. Recall the images of elves and orcs in the movie The Lord of the Rings. Elves are symbols of nobility, and their costumes are magnificent and exquisite, with every detail processed through various techniques. Orcs live in a chaotic underground world, dirty, messy, and disorderly, with a very low level of civilization. Many of their clothes are made of tattered fabric and components picked up from anywhere, worn casually. They only retain the most basic functionality and lack a sense of beauty. So we can use different techniques and levels of detail to represent the civilization level of the character and even the justice and evil of this character. The character I designed for this picture is in a post-apocalyptic world with a relatively high level of civilization after being destroyed by a disaster. Therefore, I chose a relatively modern design for his costume, referring to the style of a motorcycle leather jacket. To ensure his safety, he uses a small amount of protective equipment to arm himself. The focus of my design for this character is on the part above the waist. From the initial structural division, more layers and overlapping designs were added to the chest area. This way, the upper and lower bodies can be distinguished through density differences. The upper body has a high structural density, while the lower body is loose and mainly composed of large blocks, thus creating a rhythmic contrast. I added more stitching to the upper body clothing. The thickness, pleats, and texture details of the clothing also reinforce this design concept. The lower body, in order to maintain the overall unity of the character, only adds a few details in the joint areas, which is also a design that echoes the numerous elements of the upper body. I have added many blade elements to the weapon. The shape of the blade is square, which can correspond to the overall direction in terms of shape. At the same time, the blade is also sharp, which is consistent with the character's dangerous emotional expression and has the same psychological feeling as the triangular spikes, which is also a kind of correspondence. The fourth step is color matching. When matching colors, it is important to maintain the unity of the main tones. I usually fill the entire character with the desired tones to have an overall color perception before designing and choosing other colors. This color-based color can also serve as a reference for colors. By comparing the lightness and saturation of the colors, I can determine whether the added colors are appropriate. The step of color is very important. When choosing colors, you should consider the mysterious emotions you want the character to convey. Red is passionate, blue is cold, and purple is mysterious. It is best to design the color card before filling in the colors. After having a harmonious color card, filling in according to the colors on the color card can reduce a lot of adjustment and reverse work time. However, this is also a detail that many beginners do not pay attention to. Beginners usually rush to fill in the colors they like without seriously considering the color matching. Hasty color matching will make the picture too garish, with too many colors and a lack of primary and secondary elements. When filling in colors, it is also necessary to consider which color is the main color. Generally, the main color occupies the largest area in the picture, at least 60% of the area. After determining the main color, auxiliary colors and small areas of accent colors can be filled in. Auxiliary colors and accent colors do not necessarily have to be single colors. Colors with similar lightness and saturation can be used as a group of colors because they are the same in a certain attribute of color. After converting the picture to black and white mode, they will have similar lightness. In this way, we can increase the number of color blocks. For this picture, I have chosen medium gray as the main color, which occupies the largest area of the picture. This color is used for the pants, waistcoat, weapons, and shoulder armor. They appear in every block from top to bottom of the character. Dark brown and yellow tones are used as auxiliary colors. The exposed skin also increases the area of yellow, which makes the yellow color series part of the auxiliary color. If one only looks at clothing and equipment without considering the natural color of the human body, the yellow color series can also be used as an accent color. For the accent colors, I chose highly saturated ones instead of a single hue. I picked orange-red, low saturation rose red, and a bit of low saturation purple. There was a lot of yellow in the skin and equipment. Purple and yellow form a pair of contrasting colors, which can enhance the visual impact. For orange-red, I choose colors with relatively high saturation and lightness. They can stand out among many low saturation colors, increase the saturation contrast of the picture, and at the same time enrich the rhythm changes of the colors. Totem tattoos on the character's skin are also good choices to add color. These are often overlooked by beginners. I referred to the image in the movie Mad Max and painted a large area of white on this character's face. Around the eyes, I used the orange-red that is available on the clothing, creating a strong contrast between chromatic and achrochromatic colors. The white color on the face creates a strong contrast in lightness with the hair. In this way, the face part has more layers, although not much content is drawn through the contrast relationship of colors. This part can also be strengthened, allowing the viewer's attention to stay on the facial area. The fifth step is volume and material rendering. This drawing mainly focuses on design. It is sufficient to clearly explain the structure and material of the form. For illustration works and those for promotional and display purposes, the drawing needs to be very detailed. This is not necessary for design drawings. First, I used a positive film overlay layer to divide the overall dark areas of the character. In design drawings, the light source is usually placed at a 45 angle in front of the character to illuminate it. In this picture, I set the light source on the left side, which allows a large area of the character's body to be in the illuminated surface and better showcases the details. To add blocked shadows in the gaps where light cannot reach, pure black can be used for painting. Pay attention to the gaps in small structures. Parts with overlapping and interweaving can also produce blocked shadows. After adding blocked shadows, the orange color will have more layers because of the addition of black, which makes the relationship between black, white, and gray in the picture more rich. The changes in lightness and contrast add layers. Even if not much is drawn, it will make the picture look more rich. Then, I used the overlay layer to select a yellow with a relatively higher brightness to draw the highlights of the illuminated part. For this picture, I didn't choose a color with particularly high brightness. Choosing a color with high brightness would make the highlights very bright and give a strong sense of light, because it was a post-apocalyptic style image. The post-apocalyptic world gives people the impression of being gray, decadent, and dilapidated. Excessive light can make people feel vitality and sunlight, which seems a bit different from the post-apocalyptic style I imagined. So I chose colors with low saturation and not so high brightness to draw highlights. This can create a weak contrast effect in the picture and also enhance the sense of chaos. I also used a texture brush to enhance the dilapidated texture of the weapon and shoulder armor. Different colors of contour light were used to distinguish the character's head from the weapon. The right side light of blue-green was used to distinguish the character from the background and at the same time increase the contrast between warm and cool colors in the picture. The colors in the picture are relatively warm, so a small amount of cool colors need to be used for contrast and adjustment. After doing some detailed processing on the key parts, the character is done. Finally, you can use the adjustment tool to fine-tune the tone and contrast relationship of the picture. I usually use the curve tool and the color balance tool. The curve tool adjusts the contrast relationship, while the color balance tool is used to unify the colors of the picture. After some adjustments, the character is completed. This method is not limited to drawing characters. Weapons, props, characters of different styles, even mounts and vehicles can all be drawn using this step. Let's review these 3 steps. First, draw silhouettes. Each shape conveys different emotions. Internal cut structure, every shape has its meaning. Structural refinement, making the picture represent civilization. Color matching, let colors enhance the character's story. Volume rendering, a technique to bring your characters to life. Your homework. Create a character using these 5 steps.